안녕하세요. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to 넬슨멀린스, Michael, and Coca-Cola, Tony, to sponsoring this great event. And it's our honor to host two ambassadors all together here in the same place. And I was having a little problem of these two ambassadors to get here to from Detroit to Atlanta yesterday. And please understand that they had an 8-hour delay at the airport. So they were supposed to be arriving here at 5:10 yesterday, but actually ended up arriving here at 2:30 in the morning. So they are going to be here very soon. And this event is the event that we had the very first time here in the southeastern United States to have two ambassadors all together. And from this kind of event, and the relationship between the southeastern United States and Korea keep on improving and have more dialogues to bring more good things to each other. And especially I'd like to say thank you to this probably youngest gentlemen here in the room, the Korean War veterans here. It's because of you guys and the Korea was able to be strong as it now, and then also these Korean companies, Korean governments, not forgot about all those, the great things what this young gentleman did, and they came here to southern United States. We created over 20,000 jobs here in the southern United States. How about that? Because of that. Can I ask all the Korean War veterans to stand up? And our board of directors are here. And I'd like to ask them to stand up. Andy Harden, Colin Yoon, Andy Camp, and here Chang Park. Okay, all the board of directors. EJ is here. Aren't? Okay, Andy Levin, please. All right. This board of directors was their dedicated effort to create this Chamber of Commerce to move forward, and I think they deserve a round of applause, and thank you very much. And I'd like to turn it over to Angie, and I just got a sign that's there about 5 minutes away from there to get here. So Angie, thank you very much, y'all.
I'm going to introduce our distinguished guests next, and then following that we're going to have Michael Hollingsworth speak, because he's got a meeting he has to attend. He's a representative of 넬슨멀린스, and we're very, very pleased that he's here. And I'm going to tell you, first of all, at the first table is going to be very small introductions, because several people are speaking from that table. But I want you to meet Dr. Lisa Pong. She is an executive vice president and provost of Georgia State University. And we have John Eves, who is chairman of the Fulton County Commission, and we'll do applause at the very end. And Cedric Sussman, who is executive vice president of the World Affairs Council of Atlanta. And then I'm going to go to table 3. Jennifer Ragland is sitting there. She's not really by herself, but she is with Coca-Cola. And all the other people who were supposed to be there, by the way, there's E.J. Caraway. She is always a VIP, I can tell you that. She's a marvelous member and board member of the Korea Southeast U.S. Chamber, and she's with the Georgia Department of Economic Development. And then we will do table 2. Where is table 2? Okay, I think we've got almost everyone there. Michael Tabb, Managing Director of Red Rock Global. Claire Angel, International Affairs Director, the City of Atlanta. Bok Kim, the Chair of KACC-DC. Sang-Hyun Lee, the Korea Unification Advisory Council. Young-Rock Oh, the President of KAAGA. I know the Consul General of Korea is not there. Steve Park of 넬슨멀린스 is there. Kyung-Chul Lee of the Korean American Chamber of Commerce of Georgia. and John Lee, former president of the Korea Southeast U.S. Chamber, not of Delta Airlines, but he is now with Delta Airlines. So Michael Hollingsworth from Nelson-Mullins, please come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela. I really just want to welcome everyone to the office. I'm Michael Hollingsworth. I'm the local managing partner for Nelson-Mullins. We're an East Coast firm in Atlanta. Very important to us. It's our second largest office out of 14. And this is really where the bulk of our Korean practice resides, although we have some Korean practice in Boston as well. I would like to recognize my colleague Steve Park, who is along with our partner June Towery, whom many of you probably know, has led the way on really encouraging the Korean companies who have set up shop in the Southeast and really focused on their growth. I love the entrepreneurial spirit of the Korean manufacturers who have come to the Southeast. They're good corporate citizens, and we're really happy to have them. And from Nelson-Mullins' point of view, we want to do everything we can to encourage growth in that area and to keep these companies not only coming into the Southeast, but to incorporate them into the corporate culture. Because Atlanta is a great place to do business, as many of you know. And there is a lot to be said for the business culture in the Southeast, not only in the greater geographic area, but in Atlanta in particular. Great place to do business, and we want to keep encouraging that work. So my partner June is actually in Korea as we speak, talking to more and more companies, trying to get them to relocate their U.S. operations in the Southeast. So she sends her regards, and welcome to the firm, and enjoy the morning. Thank you.
And thanks again, Michael, for this wonderful experience at Nelson-Mullins. Next, we have Tony Kwan from the Coca-Cola Company.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased to be representing the Coca-Cola Company today. I'm Tony Kwan. I'm the CFO and strategy lead for the Asia Pacific Group, which happens to cover 51% of the global population and close to 60% of the incremental economic growth of the globe. So we're very excited to be working in that area. We're also very pleased to be supporting this great event, and hopefully when the ambassadors come, we're very happy to welcome them to the home of the Coca-Cola Company. You can see our offices just to the far side, standing proud and tall over in the horizon. So it's been very good. We as a company we've been around for about over 125 years. And we have been in Korea for 60 years. And over those years, we have grown our business very well. We're currently employing close to 2,500 associates and many, many more through all of our ancillary businesses as they do their work in that country. So we're very, very happy and very, very pleased to be part of that country. As we invest into the country, we also realize and we believe that we also have to invest in sustainability of the communities that we work in. And Korea is definitely one of those. So we are investing very heavily on clean water as well as active, healthy lifestyle across the communities in Korea. This event is going to be very important. We know that it's incredibly important to cement, deepen, and really broaden, actually, the economic ties between the two countries of the U.S. and Korea. And we're hoping that through the continued dialogue, those will continue to do. We see a lot of the economic growth. We see a lot of, whether it's TVs with LG or with Samsung. We see telephones. A lot of Samsung phones are out, probably many in this room. Cars are proliferating. So we can see the economic growth of Korea businesses in the U.S. And hopefully we'll see the same in Korea. So on behalf of the Coca-Cola Company, we welcome hopefully the ambassadors to the event and look forward to those very important discussions and talks. Thank you.
I believe we have His Excellency Ambassador An, first speaker.
Thank you.
And I can only say welcome. We're so thrilled to have you here. It doesn't happen often, but I'm speechless. So please come up and thank you.
Right. The first thing I have to say is thank you so much for the kind introduction. And the first thing I have to say is I'm speechless as well. Why? Because I look at you in this beautiful city on this beautiful morning, and then having kept you wait for more than an hour, that's the reason I feel speechless. But at the same time, I was introduced as a first speaker, so I must be saying something. So let me start by saying good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Third time, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much. It's such a nice day. Well, we are coming from New York, where we had the pleasure of opening the New York Stock Exchange. I wonder if any one of you saw in the Wall Street Journal. We made it into the front page of the Wall Street Journal. And after that, we were in Detroit. And then we had very nice visit in Detroit as well. And then this is the third stop. And then somehow, once again, I'm so sorry that I kept you waiting. I came here this morning, and I said to myself, well, I'm coming to the hub city of hub cities in the United States of America. Well, you will understand why I say this is the hub city, right? And then, of course, there is Atlanta Airport, and then there is hub of Delta, and then we flew in on Delta. And then somehow it was delayed. Anybody coming from Delta? I'm looking at you. And I say it has such a reputation. I mean, Delta has such a reputation as such a superb airline in the whole world. But somehow it was delayed by 8 hours. But anyhow, it's the hub city of hub cities in the United States of America when it comes to aviation. And I think it's a hub city in other senses of the word, in the sense that, well, of course, it's a hub city as a news media hub of the United States, Time Warner, CNN, and all that. And at the same time, you're a hub city of all those corporate America, so you're the hub city in that sense as well. And on top of it, it's the home of Born with the Wind, right? And it's the home of Emory University, Carter Center. So I said to myself, I spent so many years in the United States, how come this is my first time to come and visit Atlanta? Right? And then where this distinguished lady coming from Delta said, shame on me. But when it comes to somehow this is my first time to be in Atlanta, I should be saying shame on me. And I'm looking at this, such a beautiful city. Had I known that Atlanta is such a beautiful city, then I'm pretty sure I must have found some type of excuses to come and visit you earlier. But now I know how beautiful Atlanta is and how beautiful you are. And I think I will try to find opportunities to come and visit you more often in the days to come. Well, I guess when you see the Korean ambassador, you would wish to know what is the status of bilateral relations between Korea and the United States. And I think the very good place to start would be President Obama's trip to Korea, which happened on the 25th and 26th of April. And well, that was a very good occasion to make further progress on many of the already very close relationship we are having between Korea and the United States. When it comes to security relationship, you already know how close we are when it comes to security. When it comes to economic relationship, of course, many of you come from well, distinguished corporate societies of the United States of America. So you would already understand how close we are when it comes to economic relationship. So we entered into something called Chorus FTA, Korea-US FTA. And then I have to report to you, after 2 years, it is working very fine. There is increase in trading goods. There is increase in trading services. There is increase in investment. So it is working for mutual benefit. But what Ambassador Kim tells me all the time is this, which is the Chorus FTA, however good it may be, it is still work in progress.
It is working fine even today, but in the days to come, it will be even more important tool which will be further strengthening economic relations between Korea and then the United States. And on top of it, we have so many important cooperation, so many, say, strong cooperation we are having on all different ranges of international issues, which we call global partnership. And what we mean by global partnership, this is my third time that I came to Washington to work for the Korean Embassy in Washington, D.C. The last time I used to be in Washington, that was in 1990. And at the time, Cold War just came to an end. And it was very fashionable to say in Washington, D.C. about the new world order, how peaceful it will be, how prosperous it will be, how boring it will be, in a sense that there will be no problems, no challenges. Then after 20 years, we know that is not the case. There are so many conflicts around the world. There are so many new challenges around the world. And between Korea and then the United States, we are working to meet all those new challenges and old challenges around the world. That's what we call global partnership. So global partnership was happening in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, on all those trouble spots around the world. But at the same time, it is happening on important thematic issues, thematic challenges, which are facing Korea and the United States together, like terrorism, like cyberspace, all the problems we have in cyberspace, and the new challenges like climate change, energy. So they are the kind of new issues on which Korea and then the United States are working very, very closely. And on top of it, I think the most important relationship we have between Korea and the United States, I think it is people-to-people exchange. I think that is the most important relationship that we have been building over the past 6 years, and that we should be building in the coming year, in the coming 6 years once again. What do we mean by people-to-people exchange? Let us think about students. In this country, there are no less than 70,000 Korean students studying at graduate and undergraduate level. 70,000. Think about it. It is the third largest by nationality. The first, Chinese, 200,000. Second, Indians, 100,000. And we are the third with 70,000. And then when I say 200,000 coming from China, 100,000 coming from India, let us just think about the population in those countries. Right? And then when we think about the population in those countries, Korea is at least 10 times more heavily represented at graduate undergraduate schools. So that would be one example of very close people-to-people exchange we have between Korea and the United States. And then look at you, some of you Korean Americans. We have no less than 2 million. And then somehow, I told you about Atlanta being the hub city, and I came to find more and more Korean Americans are coming to work and live in this beautiful city called Atlanta. So for all of it, I should be thanking you for the very close security ties we have, very mutually beneficial relationship we have in the economic area, and all those partnerships we have on important global issues, but most importantly, people-to-people relationship between our two countries. For that, I thank you so much, and then once again, sorry to be late. Thank you.
Ambassador Ahn, thank you so much. That was marvelous. I would like to introduce, before Ambassador Kim speaks, 3 additional guests. Consul General Hee-Bong Kim is and then the Deputy Consul General. Now, I'm not really supposed to say this because Koreans have said to me, you know, Angie, Korea has a woman president. Well, I happen to know, and I'm quite certain that no one can contradict this, that not only is she the Deputy Consul General, but she is the first female consul to serve in Atlanta. So, Deputy Consul General Bob Real. I'm sorry, I just had to say it. Also, I should point out, before this event, people said to me, you know, Angie, don't mess up, which was, you know, pretty good advice. The Consul General and the Deputy Consul General don't sit at the same table. So, you see they're sitting next to each other. Anyway, all right. Now, we also have Jae Eun Chung, who is the wife of the ambassador. And thank you very much for joining the group today. We're honored to have you here. And Ambassador Kim, you are next, sir. Thank you so much.
It's funny, I had the same advice. My wife said, don't mess up when you get to the podium. I try not to. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We're delighted to be here. Despite the little adventure with Delta, it actually took us, Detroit to Atlanta, almost as long as my flight from Seoul to New York. That's how painful it is. But we're very glad to be here now. I want to start by thanking all of the sponsors for this event. It's really great to see everyone. Ambassador Ahn, throughout this trip, have been arguing over who goes first. Because the benefit, of course, of going second is you can just get up and agree with everything the previous people said. And this case is no different. In fact, I was a little worried that the program said I would go first. I would have to do all the work, and Ambassador Ahn could come out and say, hey, I agree with everything that guy said. Wow, thank you very much. Thank you for getting to the podium first. I really do agree with everything he said. In fact, my almost 3 years as the U.S. ambassador to Korea, what I've discovered, to my great pride, is the depth and the breadth of the relationship. It's really no longer just about the military partnership, as important as that military security partnership is. It's much broader than that. As Ambassador Ahn mentioned, we have a robust, mutually beneficial economic partnership that will continue to grow with full implementation of the historic free trade agreement. But also exciting that we're finding new areas of cooperation on global, transnational issues that are of great concern to all of us. And of course, the most fundamental is the people-to-people ties between our two nations, which really does provide a firm foundation for us to address all of these issues together in a cooperative manner. And I often like to say that the bond between Americans and Koreans does really transcend politics and economics. So when we face challenges together, I think we're able to find mutually beneficial, mutually acceptable solutions to all of our problems. And when you talk about problems, of course, we cannot ignore the threat that's posed by North Korea. I think on that, rather than speculating on what the intentions are, what the capabilities are, I think the most important thing that we need to keep in mind is the close cooperation between Washington and Seoul, between our two governments, between our two countries, on how to deal with the North Korean challenge. And there I think we can give ourselves very high mark, because I think at all levels, in terms of political policy coordination, and importantly military cooperation, we're prepared. Whatever the North Koreans may have in mind, I'm completely confident that the U.S.-Korea alliance is prepared, will be able to deal with whatever the North Koreans throw at us, which is very important. President Obama and other senior officials in the government often talk about U.S.-Korea relationship being the linchpin, the cornerstone of our overall policies towards Asia. And it really is true. It's obviously evidenced again when President Obama visited Korea for the 4th time just a couple of weeks ago. Really demonstrates very clearly our full commitment to not just the U.S.-Korea alliance relationship, but to the Asia-Pacific region more broadly. Talk about the Asia rebalance or Asia pivot. I think it's clear that America understands the importance of the Asia-Pacific region, and we are fully committed to remaining engaged, involved in the Asia-Pacific region for the long run. And I think that is good for all of us. There's tremendous potential there, tremendous potential with the U.S.-Korea relationship for it to continue to grow. One thing that Ambassador Ahn did not mention, and thank you for giving me something new to talk about, is that last year we celebrated the 60th anniversary of U.S.-Korea relationship, which in the Asian context is a very big milestone, 60 years. And I think, that both countries should be very proud of what it's been accomplished. over the past 60 years. But more important is look to the future. And I think we can be very optimistic, very excited about prospects of growth in our relations in the next 60 years and beyond. So thank you again all for joining us. Just thrilled that I have an opportunity to manage this very important relationship between the United States and Korea. Thank you very much.
Thank you also, Ambassador Kim, for a wonderful presentation. And next, we have President Donald Mansulo of Korea Economic Institute. And following that, we'll do our Q&A. Can I ask you a question? Would you like to lead the Q&A? Because he was going to do introductions of the ambassadors, so a new task, if you would like to do that. Marvelous, thank you. Jose.
Good morning. My name is Don Manzullo. I'm the president and CEO of the Korea Economic Institute. I served in Congress for 20 years with many of our colleagues that you know, including Johnny Isakson. And I chaired the subcommittee on Asia and the Pacific and was the ranking member of that committee for several years, and also served on financial services. The Korea Economic Institute is a combination of think tank, public policy organization. We have 8 people in our organization, 4 are here. And why don't Linda, Claire, Troy, why don't you stand up? These are the people who have been doing all the tremendous work for us. The purpose of our Korea Economic Institute is to continue to deepen the relationships between the United States and the Republic of Korea. And we do that in many ways. We publish 3 scholarly journals. We travel throughout the United States visiting different colleges and universities and different cities. And one of the programs that we have is the Ambassador's Dialogue. It used to be called the Ambassador's Caravan, and I think we may change it to the Ambassador's Journey after the extraordinary opportunities that we have had in the past couple of days. Korea really is an extraordinary country. Within just 2 generations, this country came from absolute total poverty to become the 12th largest economy and the 5th largest manufacturer of machine tools in the world. That's something with Taiwan, Germany, China, Japan, Italy, England, and others known for their quality and the amount of production that's made in this country. So again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here, and we're going to do the Q&A now. So we need both ambassadors to come up. Who has the second question, because nobody wants to be first?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I have a question. I hear people more scholarly than myself saying that history is destiny. Does that mean that Korea is going to be reunited one day as one nation, as it should be?
Yes. I really do believe that it's a question of time, that how we end up destiny. I think the 2 Koreas will unify, and as you suggested, that is the right thing for the Korean Peninsula. And I think reunification of the 2 Koreas will bring tremendous stability to the region, and eventually will lead to great prosperity, and not just Korea, but the region as well.
But I think I should be telling you what I mean by it's a geopolitical question. As Ambassador Kim said, we've been on the tour together in New York, in Detroit, now in Atlanta. And of course, we had to do this kind of Q&A again and again. Then of course, it was a big question, who takes the first line, right? So I said myself, there better be a rule of the game. And I said, geopolitical question, Ambassador Kim must have the first line. Why? Among other reasons, because Ambassador Kim, previous in his career, used to be U.S. representative to the 6-party talks on North Korean nuclear issue. And it's an economic issue. Usually I took the first part. Why? Because in my career I used to work for many years on economic issues. So that's what I meant by geopolitical question. And it works fine.
So ask a lot of economic questions.
But at the same time, when I let Ambassador Kim take the first bite, I always have to tell myself, well, it was such a nice idea to let him take the first bite. Why? Because I can always agree with everything and then everything. So that's the first point. My second point is, well, eventually it will happen, but at the same time, we don't know when it will happen, how it will happen. So what I think is, well, there must be things that we should be doing today in preparation for what is going to come in the future. Then when it comes to something we must be doing today, I usually say there are three things we must be doing today. First thing would be understanding, to, in a sense, deepen our understanding about what will come when there will be unification between two Koreas. And I think it is very important to think about that, to have better understanding of that. Why? Because more and more people are talking about, thinking about cost of unification, and cost will be heavy. That's in fact something we must brace ourselves for. But at the same time, benefit will be many times greater than the cost. So that's the understanding we need, and that's the reason why earlier this year, when President Park Geun-hye was making a New Year speech, New Year address, then she began to talk about the benefits of unification. So a shortage of better expression we call unification momentum. I wonder if there is the best expression, but anyhow, what the best expression would be, that question apart, I think it is very important for us to have a deeper understanding of what unification will mean for Korea. And I think benefits of unification would be enormous. Second thing we should be doing today would be take necessary actions which are possible today. And then for necessary actions which we can take today, of course there will be more humanitarian exchanges we could be doing. And then there could be more infrastructure, construction of infrastructure in North Korea. Because North Korean economy, we already know that, it is not in the best of shape. It is 2.5% of South Korea. So that, in fact, is a reality, another reality we have to deal with, and this construction of infrastructure is enormously important. Third thing we could be doing would be, well, the division between two societies. We are not talking about political regimes. We are talking about societies. Difference between the two societies, between North and South Korea, it is getting wider and deeper. So we must do something about it. So integration of two societies, that's something which we cannot wait any longer. So these are the kind of things we should be doing even today, even if we do not have a clear idea when and how unification will take place. And that's the reason why my President Park, when she came to make a speech in Dresden, Germany several weeks ago, she talked about all these three things. But there is one thing which must be taken care of before all of these meaningful exchanges could be taking place between South and North Korea, which is reduction of tension on the Korean region. More specifically, denuclearization of North Korea. That, in fact, is sine qua non, and that must first take place so that we could be taking actions on those things we must be doing today.
Just one point to add, and this is related to Ambassador Han's point about benefits of unification. And I love to cite this. When President Obama was in Seoul, not last year, but before that in April of 2012, he gave a wonderful speech that covered many aspects of Asia policy and relations to Korea. And my favorite passage was his reference to reunification and prospects for reunification. And what he said was that we should remember that despite all of the difficulties North Korea are having, inside the huge gap between two economies, despite all that, we need to remember that North Koreans are Koreans too, and that given the opportunity, given the chance, given the freedom, that they too are also capable of accomplishing great things like the South Korean brothers have. So I think that should give us hope that when it does happen, that it will actually lead to great things.
Good morning and welcome to Atlanta. I'm John Eves. I'm the chairman of regional government called Fulton County. And by the way, my father served in the Korean War, so as a child learned a lot about Korea and his experiences there. Ambassador, you mentioned something about people-to-people exchanges. I'm very interested in finding out your opinions about partnerships of local government, county or city government with Korean counterparts in terms of facilitating people-to-people exchanges. You mentioned about 100,000 students coming here. I'm not sure how many Americans are going to Korea. But what are your thoughts in terms of how government could be the facilitator of exchanges, education, etc.?
I think this should be
I think local organizations, local governments, communities have a huge role to play. I mean, no longer is the government conducted just at the federal level. And in fact, I had the privilege of welcoming many local delegations come to Seoul. Decided to try to do what you're suggesting, which is to promote and strengthen ties, people levels. And that includes many different aspects. Academic education, schools exchanges. You know, Korean culture is very popular now overseas, so many aspects of cultural exchanges as well. And these things are much more effectively promoted at local levels, national level. So I think there's a huge work done. I encourage organizations in the Atlanta, Georgia area to be fully engaged as well.
Well, I think there will be partnership between, say, the federal government and local government. And we're talking about the federal government in the United States, of course, there is Department of State. And there is one assistant secretary in charge of education and cultural exchanges. And I think she does a lot of things. It's a lady. She does a lot of things in order to promote exchanges between the United States of America on the one hand, and Laos, the countries around the Pacific world, including Korea. So she does a lot of work in order to promote educational as well as cultural exchanges between Korea and the United States. And one of the things which we really appreciate is something called WEST, Work, Education, Study, and Tourism Program, WEST. That's a program, bilateral program between Korea and the United States. And I think the way it is conducted, well, of course, there's an agreement at the federal level, but at the same time, when it comes to implementation of that agreement, then of course it should be done not only at the federal level, but at the local level. So that's one way through which we could be further strengthening relations between the two countries. And I have to say, well, you in the United States, you speak English, right? But English is a language in the United States, but at the same time, it's an international language. So demand to learn English is very high in Korea. So there is a program through which the United States provides English instructors, English professors to Korea all the time. And then one of the programs is called this Fulbright program. And when we think about Fulbright program, we think about all those graduate students who are coming from abroad to the United States. But one part of Fulbright program is to train and send English instructors abroad. So we are still benefiting a lot from the program as well. And then the third point I should be making to this, which is that there is an expression called globalization. Globalization. That means there are two phenomena happening in the world today. Globalization is one thing, localization is another. And it is only at the combination of globalization and localization that we could benefit from what we are observing today. So, if there is any good idea to further strengthen relations between Korea and the United States at the local level, state level, county level, then I think you must come forward.
The Korea Southeast U.S. Chamber was formed in 1991 by the Consulate General Office here. And since then, we made a rapid growth of the economy here in the South of the United States. Last, was about 10 years, due to Hyundai and Kia plant moved in. And there's about 200 Korean companies surrounding South of the United States have a business here. And then the economic growth is keep on going on. Right now, about 20,000 jobs have been created by the Korean companies. However, in order to go into the next step, we need some government support in regarding. Thanks God in Georgia recently, Georgia approved, increased the number of the skillful staffs visa quota. And hopefully that both governments can understand this area, the growth of economic growth is somewhat different than other areas. And a lot of these technicians, engineers need to come when a new factory get built to train the local staffs and things like that. Hopefully, government understands that this area is a specialty on that regard, so that we can have a more rapid exchange of the talented, staff to come to train the American workers. And thank you.
I guess this is an economic question with my son. Well, Andy, thank you so much for the question. Well, as a matter of fact, Ambassador Kim and I, we have been talking about Korea-US FTA entered into force. And then I told you it is working fine in all various different areas. And I told you about 3 different areas, saying trade in goods, trade in services, investment. When it comes to trade in goods, Korea has a surplus. But when it comes to trade in services as well as investment, it's the United States which has the surplus. And then for that to happen even further, then I think what we really need is professional visa for Korea, so that more Korean professionals would be able to come and work in this country. It will be good for Korea, but at the same time, it will be even greater for the United States of America. Why? Because that way, you can export even more services to Korea. And then you can invite more investment to come from Korea. And then for that, we need professional visa. So that is something I can tell senators, that's something I can tell congressmen. So you have Senator Isaacson, right? And then Senator Saxby, I think he's not running this time. But this afternoon I'm going to meet with Congressman Udall. And then I tell them, this is something we need in order to further promote economic exchanges between Korea and the United States. But Andy, I really, really appreciate what I've been hearing from you. And then there's something you could be doing in order to make it to happen. That's good for Korean American community, but that's good for Atlanta community at large. Let this professional visa for Korea happen, then it will be great for the promotion of export of services as well as inviting investment. How could you do that? You can write your senators, you can write your congressmen, and therefore, in order to make it easier, there is one Korean society based in New York, which in fact came up with a website to which you can go in, and then you can just fill out the form. They tell you it takes less than 2 minutes, and then that in fact would be a petition going directly to your congressman, to your senator. So I strongly encourage you to do that. So that's a very concrete measure you could be taking today to make it happen. And Andy, once again, thank you so much for this wonderful question.
Yeah, I would just echo what Ambassador said. I think this professional visa quota would be a very positive development for the relationship and really would promote investment and other academic activities. Mentioned I'm a citizen from Georgia. Speaking of successful Korean investments in the United States, the Kia's investment here is tremendous success. Every time I talk to the chairman of Hyundai Motors, he's thrilled with the investment here. And we want to see more of those cases through the U.S. Commerce Department's Select USA program. The U.S. government is very much involved in trying to identify potential investors in the United States to facilitate that investment in the United States. And many, many states are competing very hard for foreign investment. So I encourage Georgia to remain interested in drawing Korean investment in this area, because it can be, as Nancy suggested, win-win for both sides.
How about two?
I'm Cedric Sussman from the World Affairs Council of Atlanta, and I wanted to point out a couple of things in terms of people-to-people exchange. I think most people may know or may not know that Atlanta and Seoul are sister cities and a part of our sister city relationship.
Daegu Korea.
Yes.
Daegu Korea.
Daegu, yes. Korea, but we do have that people-to-people relationship. I'd like to recognize Claire Angel, who is the director of the Mayor's Office of International Affairs and works so closely with the Sister City Commission, so we're very grateful. I might also mention that Georgia State University has chosen Korea as one of the 5 countries of major focus for its academic activities. Our Provost Lisa Palms, I know that you've been there and you have a great ongoing interest, so there is that bridge. I wanted to change to a question, if I may, and it's geopolitical, I'm afraid. And probably not the easiest one, but how do you suggest that how does Korea also suggest that we address the geopolitical tensions in the region, in what is called by China the South China Sea, but by others as well, other sort of territorial issues, and we see that Vietnam currently is having a very difficult time. How do we take this forward in a productive way?
I think there is a big economic angle to this. Thank you very much, Senator. You know, if you look at what's happened in the Asia-Pacific region in the past few years, I think developments have reminded us that despite the stability that we have enjoyed, despite the prosperity, enormous prosperity, and economic growth that we have seen in the region, there's some serious tensions in the region as well. You mentioned territorial disputes involving China and some of the countries in Southeast Asia, territorial dispute between China and Japan. There's difficulties between our 2 close allies, Japan and Korea as well. I think there are a couple of fundamental things that Washington would like to see, which is that all of these disputes should be resolved peacefully, should be resolved according to international norms and practices, and that no country should use intimidation, force, provocation to try to resolve these issues. I mean, we obviously, as a country that has deep interest, state, in the Asia-Pacific region, care very deeply about how these issues are addressed. So, we talk very deeply with partners in the region, Korea and Japan, about all of these issues. I think the main thing is that if the region wants to continue to grow in a peaceful channel and continue to be prosperous, we need to make sure that these issues do not overwhelm all of the potential opportunities that we have.
Well, thank you for the great question. And then I totally agree with Ambassador Kim when he talks about, well, on the one hand, the economic relationship, which is going from strength to strength on East Asian countries. But at the same time, somehow, that economic relationship is not having a positive spillover on other relationships we have among East Asian countries. And this contrast between economic integration and the disintegration when it comes to other kinds of relationships, that has been observed by many observers in my part of the world, in our part of the world. And one of those observers, very keen observers, I have to say, is my president. And several years ago, she came up with an expression which is Asia paradox. She called it Asia paradox. Economically, there is further integration, but there is not having spillover effect. There is even more worrisome developments when it comes to other kinds of relationships. So that contrast has been called by my president as Asia paradox. And what shall we do with respect to the Asia paradox? Shall we just describe it as a paradox? Or shall we try to come up with an idea to address them squarely? And then it was the view of my president that we must do something. I mean, it will be very difficult to address the problem, but at the same time, at the very least, we must try to address it. So that's the reason why, when she was inaugurated as a president, she came up with a proposal, and then the proposal is Dialogue for Peace and Cooperation in Northeast Asia. That's a proposal she came up with by the time she was inaugurated as a president. But we know it is going to take some time before there is concrete progress in order to realize that proposal. And then in the meantime, we will have to address several very difficult problems, like historical issues that has been mentioned by Ambassador Kim, like the relationship between Korea and Japan. Or North Korean nuclear issue is another problem we should be addressing. And then other territorial issues are there. So these issues must be addressed. And in the meantime, we should be thinking about, well, another architecture we can build together among East Asian countries, as well as with the participation of, well, the countries with deep interest in the region, for example, United States of America. So that's something we should be doing. With respect to denuclearization, you know what the problem is. With respect to territorial issues, you know what the problem is. With respect to relationship between Korea and Japan, I, as a professional, I, as a diplomat, am a lot concerned about these problems we have between Korea and Japan. Why? Because between Korea and Japan, we share so many things. We share common values. We share strategic interests. And therefore, that reason, we should be further strengthening the relations between Korea and Japan. And then we must look ahead and move to the future. And then that's something we have been doing for the past 60 years. And then we were making very good progress in that direction. One good example would be, do you like football? Soccer, right? Not American football, but soccer. And then there is World Cup football games. 2002, Korea and Japan were co-hosters for the World Cup football games. In other words, we have had very difficult times behind us between Korea and Japan. But somehow, by 2002, we could make progress so much in the relationship between Korea and Japan that we could co-host the World Cup football games between Korea and Japan. But that positive development between Korea and Japan, somehow that has been stopped. That has been undermined beginning from more than 1 year ago. And that is because of rather unhelpful statements and unhelpful actions being made and taken by some politicians in Japan. So that is the reason why we have encouraged from Japan to first make honest and fair recognition of the past. And then I have to tell you, we in fact are cooperating very closely with the United States on that contest point, and then we are making very good progress. And I hope that will happen little by little, but in a positive manner. We very much hope that it will happen, so that we could be restored, we could be rebuilding this important relationship between Korea and Japan, and then move on. Thank you, Sergio, for that great question.
I'm here because Mr. Manzullo doesn't want to take any more questions, so I'm stopping the question. Thank you very much. And those are the media who wants to have some of the questions. Please, after our event, because we all have to go back to work. That's the problem. They want to keep talking some more about it. Unfortunately, ambassadors, we all have to go to work. I apologize. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a seat, please. I'd like to close to thanking every one of you to participating. And please have a seat just for a couple minutes, please. At this moment, I'd like to recognize two persons, especially because of a Delta problem, 8 hours of a delay. These two persons went chaos, and they pulled all their hairs almost from yesterday evening till this morning. Okay, I'd like to recognize Janahan, our administrator of our chamber. She had to go cancel everything and redo everything and back and forth. Mr. Jim Choi of JJ Catering, and the same thing, they can't put everything back in this Thank you very much for your understanding and patience. And if you saw in your program, on the back of it, and there is two events coming. One is May 31st, our annual golf event. Andy Harden is the chairperson of that event. If you have any questions, if you'd like to participate, please talk to Andy Hardin. We have too many Andys in our organization. Andy Camp from the branch. And also, tentatively, July 9th at the UPS headquarters, we're going to host Korea Southeast U.S. Economic Forum. We are trying to invite Wendy Cutler, who is currently acting deputy USTR representative. She was the head negotiator for the U.S. When they during the FTA negotiations, and also the Gyeongsangbuk-do, and then also the KITA, Korea International Trade Association, is going to come in. But this forum is going to be two parts. In the morning, more of a general keynote speech, and in the afternoon, after lunch break, we're going to have a workshop. So we'll probably have about 9 to 12 different sessions. Actual how we're going to bring the companies who are successful with Korea-U.S. FTA successful case. So those companies are going to be invited and explain how they did it, how they use that the programs effectively, and things like that. So it will be very, very beneficial event. And also Chairman Eaves, I know you're don't have any time right now because he's against this election, primary election in about a week from now. But he made it awesome. But he's been trying to make that connection, people-to-people connection. And last year he had some commitment with Gyeongsangbuk-do. And those kind of things will probably keep on going on. And those of you who drove all the way from Alabama, Mobile, Alabama, Susan Kim, thank you very much. Aunt from Arbor, and Lauren, thank you very much. Those of you who drove all the way from the Alabama to here last time or early this morning, thanks so much. We'll be hoping to see you soon in May 31st, the golf tournament, World Economic Forum. All those informations, please go to www.koreaseuschamber.org. That's all one website to remember to anything that you want to connect to the Korea. US Korea Connect sites there, also tradekorea.com, all the links there. So you don't have to memorize about 10, 20 different sites. Just come to our website, www.koreaseuschamber.org. Thank you very much and have a great day.